Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the preview for the Kirk Cousins Bowl. Yes, Kirk Cousins is coming back to Minnesota. What does that mean? What are the Falcons right now, and how can the Minnesota Vikings end up getting the win? Welcome to the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always, in the top left corner, he's producer Dave. And Dave, I don't know if you know this, but my birthday is on Saturday.
I did not know that. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm not saying it for happy birthday. I'm saying it more as a shout out to the wife. Came home and she made a homemade carrot cake for me. I am very, very excited about that homemade carrot cake. My buddy Keith, his mom unfortunately passed away last year, but she was not a cook. But that woman could make two things. One of them was venison lasagna, which she made in like giant, like 18 by 24 sheet pans, just incredible stuff. And carrot cake. Those was like the only two things that she made, and she made them incredibly well. So every time I have carrot cake, I think of my buddy Keith, and I'm really excited to try this. It's going to be awesome. But we're not here to talk about carrot cake or my birthday. We're here to talk about your Minnesota Vikings taking on Kirky boy Kirk Cousins, who is, well, he's having a very Kirk-tacular year this year there, Dave.
Yes, he is, from the highs to the lows.
Mm-hmm. But before we kind of move on, I know some people are already talking about it in the comments. Dave, you told me that there was something really unfortunate that happened. I believe it was overnight, correct?
Correct. Last night. Curtis Alexander, better known as SKOL TYA, passed away in an auto accident last night. He's part of our community. He's part of the Viking sphere. He started a show. He does it with Tony Bell. It's a very history-oriented show. He's very, very great at it. And great man to talk to. He lived down in San Antonio, and I just regret not going down and visiting. But he will be sorely missed. But now he's in Valhalla, cheering on the Vikings from there.
Yeah. I did not know him personally, but I know I've seen him in the comments, and every time he was in there, he was very nice and respectful and usually had something good to say. And he will be missed. And I know from us to everybody who knew him, our thoughts, prayers, good vibes, whatever you believe in, we're thinking of you. It's never easy to lose anybody, and we'll dedicate this show in his honor, for whatever that's worth. Godspeed, sir. Godspeed. But we wanted to mention that because it's anytime you lose a member of a community like this, whatever affiliation or connection you have to it, even if you don't have a direct connection with that individual, we all share something really special here. Mm-hmm. We all share a derived passion for this organization and this football team and the NFL in general. We derive this passion to be absolutely stomped on every single year. But we come back every year because we really love this football team and the community that we have. And even though I didn't know him personally, it hurts, man. Like anytime you lose somebody adjacent or like your best friend or your parent or your spouse, anything like that, it hurts. And like especially the stuff he was doing with Tony, which they did a really good job, as you mentioned, with the history stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just sucks, man. It just sucks. It's I'm unfortunately, I guess, for lack of a better term, like I unfortunately know what it's like to kind of come close to death, and just don't take it for granted. Don't take anything for granted. Just remember that you know it's hard. It's hard, and if you guys knew him, all the good vibes and blessings to you. That's while you go through the grieving process, and I know we'll kind of do our own too. But at least wanted to give him a final shout out and a SKOL.
Till Valhalla.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully he gets to play that fun Halo map too. There's a really kick-ass map called Valhalla in Halo, Dave. I think you'd really appreciate the artwork in it.
Well, I'm sure he would.
Yeah. Let's have a conversation about Kirky Boy. I know we're gonna have kind of a little bit of a change in tone, but we at least wanted to shout out one of our own before we kind of moved on, because it would be, in my opinion, disrespectful to not mention it, especially with T-Bass being the first in the comments. I believe it was T-Bass kind of mentioning his passing. And I know when we talked earlier today, because initially we weren't going to have a show tonight. My wife was going to take me out to for a birthday dinner, but we decided to push it back just because, I'm going to be real, we didn't want to go out in the cold. I didn't want to leave the house with all the wind, and neither did she. We had already done it once. We're just like, we just don't want to do it again. So we pushed it back. I can have wings next Tuesday. It's no big deal. And we just decided to kind of, you know what, let's do a show tonight. So it's a very interesting one. Kind of when you're talking about the Minnesota Vikings and how they're going to take on Kirky Boy, Kirk Cousins. And Dave, let me tell you, this Falcons team, you know what they remind me of?
What?
The Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins. They started off, they were this close to getting a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. They got a win against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, and they've beaten some good teams. They've beaten the Buccaneers twice. They get up to 6-3. They look like they could become one of the better teams in the NFC, and then they lose 3 in a row. It just feels like a Kirk Cousins team.
Well, he had Kirktober where he was throwing like 400 yards, and then it just went.
Yeah,
and we've all been there. It's the ups and the downs with Kirk Cousins.
It's very true. Good old Kirky Boy. As I pull up one more page.
Yeah, TBS, he's probably going to be highly motivated on Sunday.
So let's start here. Taking a look at the schedule of the Falcons, they have 3 games that were not decided by one score. 1-2 in those games. So Kirk Cousins is 5-4 in one-score games this year. God, this is such a Kirk season. It's so funny. They have 257 points forced, but they've allowed 291. This is the team that people complained that the Vikings had, which they didn't. They complained that Kirk Cousins didn't have a defense. He didn't have a supporting cast. Buddy, let me tell you, he does not have a defense in Atlanta. He does have a supporting cast. He's a really intriguing offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson. I love his head coach, Raheem Morris. I think those of you who have been longtime listeners and viewers of the show know how much I was advocating for Raheem Morris to be the guy over Kevin O'Connell. Remember, I took an L on O'Connell. I did not want him. Of the 4 finalists, he was the one I wanted the least. I wanted Brian Daboll and Raheem Morris really bad. And you know what?
Good thing you were wrong on that one.
You know what? I don't necessarily think I was wrong in wanting either of those guys. I 100% was wrong in really blowing off Kevin O'Connell. And I think kind of looking back at why I kind of blew off O'Connell, so much of what makes him great is really difficult to discern from our perspective. So much of what has made him great is the human element, the ability to connect with players, the ability to build a culture, establish it, and continue to hold players accountable for that culture and get players to buy in. We can't see that from the outside, considering where he came from, where Sean McVay is really like, he not only does he call plays and run the offense, but he's a CEO. That's his organization. So it's really hard to be able to determine some of those things from the outside because we don't have any kind of access or knowledge about it. So I will say that was a complete miss by me. And I think I've understood why I missed it. And I'm glad I ended up being wrong because O'Connell's been phenomenal for this franchise. And I think what he did with Kirk Cousins is a testament to that because he took a guy who played way too conservative. And it was almost like he flipped a fuse. He went out to the fuse box in the garage, flipped it, and all of a sudden the fridge started working again. That's kind of what it felt like in 22 and 23, where like 23, I think it's inarguable. Those first 8 games, he was playing like at an MVP kind of level, especially in those final 3. He was playing great football before he tore his Achilles. He was playing great ball. And it took him a little bit with Atlanta to get adjusted to his teammates, get adjusted with the new scheme because it's the same, but it's different. It's like going to Spain and speaking Spanish versus going to Mexico City and speaking Spanish. It's a different vernacular, a different slang, a different methodology of how they implement the Spanish language. Now, if you go from like Harlem to Chicago to Dallas, Texas to Tupelo, Mississippi to Cleveland, Ohio to Boise, Idaho to Malibu, California, you're going to get different vernaculars of English. So it's kind of the same thing. It's the same general concepts, just a different spin on it. So it took him a little bit to get adapted in the communication with Zach Robinson, the defense or the offensive coordinator. But they kind of got into a flow. They went 1-2 to start the year, rattled off 3 in a row, lost to the Seahawks bad. 1-2 in a row against the Bucs and the Cowboys, and then lost 3 in a row, including a 38-6 drubbing by the Denver Broncos. That game was ugly. It was so bad they pulled Kirk Cousins in the fourth quarter, played Michael Penix Jr. some, and after his performance against the Chargers, where he threw 4 picks, including a pick 6 to rookie Tarheeb, one of those names still. He was a day 3 pick of the Chargers. They did a great job picking corners on day 3, by the way. Cam Hart, all Forno team, baby. Let's go. And just, it was ugly. And one of the things that's concerning about me or about Kirk Cousins is watching some of the film, Dave, he's kind of losing it a little bit. I'm talking arm strength. And that was a real concern I had going into the offseason because you generate so much power from your legs, and having an injury to your Achilles tendon can be crippling to a quarterback because of how much power you have to generate from his legs. And early on, it looked like he couldn't generate anything from his legs. It looked like he couldn't even move. Now he's a little better. He's moving okay. He's able to kind of escape the pocket a little bit. I mean, he's still lumbering. It's not the Kirk Cousins we saw a year ago or 2 years ago, but he can move a little bit better. But it's almost like the ball is dying on him. And because of that arm strength thing that I mentioned, what was really concerning is Kirk never had a strong arm. He had an above average arm. He had an adequate arm. He could make all the throws, but he wasn't going to zip it in with like a ton of gusto. It was going to have enough to get it there and get it past the defender, but you're never going to be wowed by it. And you can run with that for a long time, but when that starts to go, it's not going to be like when Josh Allen's arm strength starts to go, because there's still going to become an above average arm there. It's going to crater. And I think we're starting to see a couple signs of that. And especially in like those seam balls where Kirk did such a good job of just zipping it in there. That's where we're starting to lose it. That's where we're starting to see some of that deterioration. Now, can he gain some of it back? Because Achilles can often take 2 years to, heal. Maybe. But right now, I have real concerns about Kirk Cousins and his viability moving forward.
Well, I'd heard this week he had one of his passes clock in under 30 miles an hour. And for a pass, that's a wounded duck. It's slow. Considering quarterbacks now are throwing 60s, 50s, and 60-mile-an-hour balls. And he had it under 30, which is unbelievable. That ball dies.
Mm-hmm.
So that indicates his arm isn't as strong, and obviously because his Achilles was on his plant/drive foot, it's not well for him. Be great for us, but not for him.
Listen, he can throw up all kinds of duds. I would be more than happy with that.
Yeah. Andrew Van Ginkel gets his third pick 6 of the season.
I will say, I think we talked about it on the show, but shout out to Caleb Williams for knowing that was coming and deking him and then throwing around him. That was some brilliant stuff in that Bears game. I don't know if Kirk will have that same ability, but let's kind of talk about some of the stuff that Kirk has done from like an analytical standpoint, because I think that's a really good way to kind of look at how things are going for him. So Cousins is kind of regressing a little bit in some of the metrics. Like Sam Darnold, and you guys all know me, I look at things from a more neutral perspective. So I do it win probability 10 to 90%. So anything over 90%, that game's over. And if you kind of understand what I mean, like it's over 90%, like we're talking some garbage time kind of stuff. Now you can still come back and win those games, but I don't care about numbers that you put up when it's above 90%. I just don't. In those situations, in those neutral situations, he's 12th in the league in EPA per play at 0.14 points per play, 7th in success rate at 50.7%. So you're seeing an offense that's kind of not necessarily driving it down the field. You're seeing an offense that is, what do you call it? You're seeing an offense that's like, they love to run Hank. Hank is a concept that has like a really deep hook route. So like 10 to 15 yards. You run, you find the soft spot in the zone, you hitch up, and you throw it. I think they ran that concept against the Buccaneers in their overtime win like 12 times in the fourth quarter, where Kirk threw over 500 yards and got the win. Like that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. We're talking about an offense, like they're doing different things than the Kevin O'Connell offense. They're running a lot more pistol, which is like a half shotgun. So if you can imagine, shotguns, the quarterback's about 7 yards deep. Pistol, they're about 3.5 to 4. And there's a running back often behind them, and the fullback is next to them. So the pistol gives you the opportunity to be able to do a little bit of everything from the shotgun, to where if you run a play action, you don't have to like turn around and move as far, and you can actually not have to move at all. You can almost do like a read option kind of thing. Like it opens up avenues. And if you ever want to learn about the pistol, my friend JP Acosta at SB Nation wrote a really cool article about how the pistol is probably going to be the next offense to take over the NFL. And whenever he writes something like that, I highly recommend everybody read it. 2, the Colin Kaepernick offense from his time at Nevada. Go YouTube some games. That offense, like this isn't like anything like political, because I know Colin Kaepernick's kind of a controversial name, but that offense at Nevada was, 1, really fun, and 2, really helped bring some kind of these concepts to the National Football League level. And then Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman started running it in San Francisco, and they made 3 consecutive NFC Championship games and were like 6 inches away from winning a Super Bowl. Like that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. So they were running it with Kirk because they love to do play action with Kirk. Everybody does because it's what Kirk's really, really good at. And it made it so they didn't have to move him very much. So Zach Robinson's incorporating that. They're using less pistol now than they were. And I think it's really interesting to kind of have that conversation. It's Kirk himself is playing okay, but how long, Dave, is this going to keep up considering his age? I believe he is now 37 years old, and he's coming off of that major injury. He's already shown signs of struggle. It's an interesting spot for the Falcons.
It is, but they paid him. It's mostly guaranteed, so.
And the one interesting, yeah, absolutely. The one really interesting thing is they can trade him, but it's got to be approved by Kirky boy.
Yeah, he's got a no trade clause.
Look, a lot of quarterbacks will have no trade clauses because they're quarterbacks, and they can negotiate them in there. But I can tell you, if they like, hey, we're going to start Michael Penix Jr., you can either be cut or we can trade you. And we can trade, or like you can just sit on the bench. Because they got to pay him anyways. So what's the point? What they can do is try and trade and be like, hey, guess what? Your boy Kyle Shanahan has called and he wants you. Do you want to go? Okay. I mean, 8 years too late, but who's counting, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at an injured guy, an injured quarterback. I'm kind of pulling up some overall like kind of metrics here. Kirk is
Scott. He's better under center.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins. Dave, you're not going to believe this. I had forgotten about this and I just looked it up. How many big time throws do you think Kirk Cousins has had so far this year?
I don't know. What's the average for the league?
Eyeballing it, around 15.
Okay, he's had 18.
10.
Wow.
How many turnover-worthy plays do you think Kirky Boy has had this year? Now remember, how PFF charts turnover-worthy plays is plays that are worthy of resulting in a turnover, not ones that actually do. Sometimes Kirk, one of his interceptions, it was a weird batted ball at the catch point that ended up an interception. That's not turnover worthy. That's fluky. They don't count those. They count like dropped interceptions. That is a turnover worthy play.
Where he throws to the defender or in a bunch of defenders and is off target. Yes. 10.
21.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad. Kirk Cousins does have 17 touchdowns with 13 interceptions. There are only a few players that have double-digit interceptions. Gardner Minshew, Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold all have double-digit interceptions.
Okay. Ted Glover, G. Lover, chimed in. Kirk is struggling more than a dyslexic kid in an alliteration class.
Oh my gosh, that's an incredible line. It's incredibly
Ted. That's why we love Ted.
Hey Ted, is Ryan Day one of those kids? I'm just asking for a friend.
He says that said he either throws 4 picks or 4 TDs on Sunday, no in between.
You know what would be the perfect Kirk game on a game like this? Either he throws for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and they lose, or he throws for like 190 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 picks, and they get the win. Like, to me, I see where Ted's going with this and I completely get it. To me, I think you're going to see a weird-ass Kirk game. And I think that's going to be real interesting. real interesting.
And yes, Ted's calling for Ryan Day's head, which he should.
Good.
That was an embarrassing loss. Absolutely, 100%. When you're favored by over 2 touchdowns and they hold you to the lowest score in the history of the school, yes.
The one weird thing about a rivalry like Ohio State and Michigan is if you ask the fans, would you rather win that national title or beat Michigan? They have to think about it. That's the kind of rivalry it is.
Hey, it's like us and the
Iron
Packers.
Bowl is the same thing. Oh, screw that. I'll take the Super Bowl.
No, but it's, I've always said, how do you rank the season, right? All right, if we make it all the way Super Bowl, great, wonderful. We had a great year. And even if we have bad years, was it a success? There's 2 games. Did we beat the Packers? Did we beat them twice? That's all I care about. And then did we make the playoffs? That's us old-timers believe. And as Ted said, beat Michigan over a national title. And most of the time when they beat Michigan over, they generally are in the running for a national title, and they've won a few, as Ted can attest to. He's even been to them.
Yeah.
But beating Michigan is like us beating the Packers. We hope it happens often, and it is, just a bloodbath. But we'll get our chance. That's coming up. That's not the game we're talking about, but that is in week 17.
Hey, I would much rather Florida. I've seen a couple Florida national titles. I'd love to see another 5 before I die, if not more. But if they can beat Tennessee every year and ruin Tennessee fans' day, I'm in. That's beautiful.
See,
which
that's
is also
what we're talking about.
Which is also extra funny because the company I work for, their bread and butter is covering Tennessee, and they love Tennessee. So one of my first days in the Slack, I'm like, hey, I just got to get out there now so you can throw your tomatoes at me. I hate Tennessee.
Yep.
Hey, they still like me. All right, let's talk about the Falcons defense a little bit because we could talk about Kirky Boy all day. I think it's going to be really interesting. Blitzing Kirky Boy is going to be the most important thing, in my opinion. Make him move. Make him think quickly. Darnell Mooney was on the injury report for rest and an Achilles. So that's an interesting one I'm going to monitor all week. Drake London also had a rest day. Like, the Falcons are about as beat up as we are. It's just that time of year. It's week 14 in the National Football League. But let's kind of talk about the defense, because the defense is, Dave, it's not very good. The defense is 22nd in EPA per play allowed. They are 25th in success rate. You can move the ball in this defense and generate explosives. Most importantly, it's actually easier to, it's about as equal to as far as EPA to throw the ball and pass the ball, but their success rate in rushing allowed is 29th in the league. They are allowing 46.9% success rate on runs, which is significantly high. The Vikings have not faced a worse run defense in that realm, but they did face the 27th in the Bears and the 28th in the Cardinals the last 2 weeks. Success rate on passing plays is a little better. It's 12th in the league, but you can gash them in both areas. And if you can establish the run, Josh Oliver probably coming back, Dave. Josh Oliver is set to come back this week. He practiced in full on Wednesday. If he practices in full on Thursday, I'm going to feel really good about him playing on Sunday, because that usually means, hey, we didn't see a setback. Sorry, that was incredibly unprofessional. He's doing good. I'll take it. I'll take it every day of the week. And as everybody mentions, Mike Hughes is on the Atlanta Falcons. But the two interesting things, they have AJ Terrell, who's an all-pro caliber corner. I actually think he has been an all-pro at one point in his career. They just signed him to a big contract. They got nobody else at corner that's really any good, but they have two really, really, really good safeties. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons. They signed Simmons to a 1-year, $8 million deal at the end of free agency, in training camp. They signed him to that deal. And by signing him to that deal, you kind of just fortify a position that, let's be honest, people just don't value. They do not value the position of safety, especially when players are starting to ask for like $16, $17 million. Antoine Winfield Jr., who's like a quasi slot corner at times, he's getting 21. Like that stuff all kind of matters. And being able to get him for $8 million is great. It's fantastic. Okay. I'm getting tired, Dave. It's tired up here.
It's been a busy day and a eventful one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm taking a look at the Falcons coverages because I want to see
how many points do they score on average.
Oh, I don't have that information in front of me. I usually don't look at that. I want to look at how they're generating because points can be somewhat random. Okay. I think these guys are more of a 2 high.
He doesn't see him stopping our wide receivers.
Well, they have really good safety. So if you play a lot of 2 high, which they do, they play 49.7% of the time in 2 high, middle of the field open coverage. With those safeties, that's really not that big of a surprise. They're 23rd in the league in single high, and they don't run cover 0 a ton. But they're still 10th in the league at 4.7%. This team loves to have the middle of the field closed. They are going to spam it. They're going to utilize it. I actually think they're more of a quarters team.
Okay, well, I say if you close the middle of the field, you just run to the outside. That should have Addison and JJ all happy. The only one that might not be is TJ.
Well, what's interesting is they end up like really trying to attack the middle of the field. And I wonder how that's going to kind of manifest itself with how the Falcons defense kind of ends up attacking. Plus, the one interesting thing about the Falcons, Dave, they stink at rushing the passer. They're terrible. They're terrible at rushing the passer.
Line, yes. Mm-hmm. And Sam Darnold.
Oh, absolutely. Let me pull up the sack numbers. They are last in the NFL, 15 sacks. Tied for second is 3 teams with 21. For context, the Minnesota Vikings are 4th with 39 sacks.
Yeah, and 2 guys with like 9 each.
And the only teams ahead of the Vikings are all on bye.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens, the Texans, and the Broncos.
Which is
that tells
weird.
you tells you a lot.
The latest bye ever, but okay.
Yeah, it's good for the Texans because they've got that weird stretch where they play like 3 games in 10 days because of that Wednesday game.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have a Sunday game, then a Saturday game, and then a Wednesday game because of Christmas Day. Which, what a schedule. But they get a bye, so it's really not that big of a deal. I guess in context to like the Chiefs, who don't have a bye right before that. I expect the Vikings to really try to attack, try to put those safeties in conflict and make them think, like run like dagger concepts, run mills, run posts. Yankee's a good one too, where Yankee is like a deep over with a post on the other side. So what it's designed to do is that they're both attacking essentially the same safety.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Who are you going to cover? I love Yankee. Yankee's such a fun concept. And I think what they're also do is, like you mentioned, kind of attacking the sidelines. They run enough cover 1 and cover 2 kind of like conceptually, because I think they like to bring Simmons and Bates down into the box where you can kind of mix and match and kind of have some fun and be able to attack in a lot of different ways. You can attack in corners. You can attack in the flats. I think they're going to try and pepper the middle because their linebackers are okay, but there's nobody really great in that unit.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Anderson might be their best linebacker, and he is injured right now, and he was limited in practice today. Will he play? I don't know. And I think the big thing is going to be get the run going. Trust Aaron Jones to hold on the ball and pray to God that he does.
Mm-hmm. And Chris asks, do you think Kirk will provide some intel on what KOC runs for concepts in different situations? In other words, is Kirk providing to the coaches down in Atlanta, KOC is going to do this or KOC is going to do that?
Oh, I'm sure, but I also don't think it'll matter that much because Zach Robinson probably has some of the same tendencies because they run the same kinds of plays.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're self-scouting. They're going to, Kevin O'Connell's going to have some stuff for that Falcons team that they're not ready for because he knows he's got to have it.
Right. And you've got Brian Flores who knows how Kirk thinks to a point, and KOC definitely knows how Kirk thinks, and they will have some stuff planned for that.
Absolutely.
I suspect some surprises, some Christmas presents under the tree.
Like the carrot cake I have downstairs.
Yes. I don't like cake as a whole, generally. I mean, it's okay. But I do love good carrot cake.
Cake is overrated. But let me tell you, pie is so good. If you find a really, really good cake, it kind of bucks the trend a little bit. And that's what I'm really excited for. We're going to kind of keep this one a little bit shorter today. But I do want to talk about this before we go, Dave. What do you think about the reception Kirk Cousins is going to get? Because if you go by Twitter, which let's be honest with ourselves, one of the things with any kind of group on a social media platform, the loudest ones usually don't reflect the majority. And I think that's something that we can lose. And that's not just with the Kirk Cousins thing. That can be with, it can be with pretty much any group of people that follows a certain thing. Pro wrestling, the loudest people are usually the ones that are the most wrong about the pulse of the fan base and that kind of thing.
Dog lovers. Which dog breeds the best? Yeah.
It's Frenchies. It's Frenchies. Frenchies are the best.
I have no idea what it's going to be. Is he going to get booed? Is he going to get, appreciated? I assume he's going to get claps and they'll outweigh the boos, but that's just me. I may laugh hysterically, but that's, like I said, that's me. Yes, Too Evil. Pie is superior to cake. The Bubble Room in the Sanibel Island down in Florida, where you can get an amazing cake. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think whatever the reception is going to be, it's going to be loud because he is the most controversial Minnesota Viking, maybe of our lifetime, or my lifetime specifically. You have a little bit of a wider scope than I do, so historical.
You say I'm old? Yes, I am.
Historical context of stuff before like 1995 is going to be over my head a little bit. I'm just going to be real, but the only one that I can think of that might be more controversial in recent memory, Adrian Peterson post child abuse charges.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was one where that really divided a lot of people because it was an old school mentality. You grab the switch. Like my generation, like I got spanked. Like it was usually like the back end of a wooden back scratcher. well, like it wasn't super hard, but it was enough to like, learn your lesson. But Switch is like I think it's part of a cultural thing too. Like for some people, it was just ingrained in them from a young age. I'm not going to say that's right or wrong, but I think it provides a little bit of context to understanding. So Adrian did it, probably not even realizing that it was a problem. And then it kind of opened some eyes. And then there was a lot of discussion like, oh, this guy is the worst person in the world. Oh, well, hey, he's just doing what his parents did. And like, it's kind of like, for lack of a better term, it's like a tradition, like not tradition, but you understand what I mean. It's a culture thing. Like Kirk Cousins wasn't any of that, but he was so controversial for this franchise. Just wild.
Mm-hmm. I like Ant's suggestion, play a drinking game. Take a sip every time Kirk gets sacked or throws a pick.
Well, Anthony, we don't want Dave to be hammered by the time the post-game show goes on. He's still got to produce it. I don't have the capabilities to produce it at my house. I don't have the computer to be able to run the program. So we don't need that. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And like, I wished Kirk well. I did not want him back. I thought it was a better idea to move forward without him. And I think Sam Darnold's played way better than Kirk this year. Not just from a dollars perspective, which obviously, yes, but from an on-field just play perspective, he's been better than Kirk Cousins. And I really don't think it's been that close. I'm really, really excited about seeing this game. We're going to get Kirk in the noontime slot. They did not move this, which I actually think it's better in the noontime slot because Kirk Cousins thrives in the noontime slot. I'm excited to see this game, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to, as a programming note, our normal Monday show is probably going to end up being a pregame show because it's a Monday night game next week against the Chicago Bears.
No, not next week, the following week. If we were talking show-wise. We've got this week. Today's Wednesday. We have the game. Yeah. We'll have a normal Tyler, a Real Forno show on Monday and Wednesday. And then 2 old bloggers. And then that Monday night, we'll do it as a run-up to see who wins the toss, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks here for the Minnesota Vikings. That is our show. My prediction right now is I think the Vikings win this game, but I think it's close because it's a Kirk Cousins game. It has to be close. That's it. How is Panthers, Eagles, Fox's game of the week? Well, not a lot of great games on the schedule. And Fox, so the way the broadcast works is you have one network gets to air 2 games. The other one airs 1 in each city. So with Fox getting 2, they have 1 game that's pretty much nationwide, and that's going to be Panthers Eagles. Is that the best game? I don't know. I haven't looked enough at the slate, but I can tell you this: like the Eagles are 10-2. Bryce Young's playing really well, former first overall pick. People will watch.
Mm-hmm.
People will watch. But in the meantime, I'm going to predict a Vikings victory, and I think that they're going to be able to get it done.
I think they will too.
That is our show. Thank you guys very much for joining. The Vikings do have a chance to clinch a playoff berth with some help. The easiest path is a win and a Cardinals loss and a Rams loss. But if the Cardinals and Seahawks tie and the Vikings win, that does it too. Thank you guys very much for joining. Don't forget, I believe we have another Scolders and Spice later this week, Dave.
Yes, tomorrow night.
We'll have that. We'll have 2 old bloggers on Saturday
night. Tomorrow night.
Ooh, there we go. Perfect. 2 old bloggers on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunday we'll be live for the 2-minute warning and back to the Real Forno Show Monday night. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. Thank you for watching. Rest in Valhalla to our friend SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!